Foreign ministers for Denmark and Greenland will meet with U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio at the White House later today, and they're discussing U.S. President Trump's push for the territory. On Truth Social, less than an hour ago, Trump wrote, "The United States needs Greenland for the purpose of national security. It is vital for the Golden Dome that we are building. NATO should be leading the way for us to get it. If we don't, Russia or China will, and that is not going to happen." That's from the president about 25 minutes ago. So during a press conference yesterday, Greenland's prime minister said they are facing a geopolitical crisis and that, quote, "If we have to choose between the United States and Denmark here and now, then we choose Denmark." So for a closer look at what we can expect from the meeting today, I'm joined by Marisol Maddox, Senior Arctic Fellow at the Institute of Arctic Studies at Dartmouth College. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
I want to ask, first of all, because it's just happening this morning, what do you make of Trump's Truth Social post where he says we need it for national security, clearly not backing down as these meetings are taking place today?
Yeah, well, it's not surprising that President Trump would be setting up his administration to enter the negotiations from a maximalist perspective. This is not surprising because that's kind of the typical of how he would enter such negotiations. I would say that the United States already has what is needed for national security. We have a very generous defense agreement from 1951 with the Kingdom of Denmark that also recognizes Greenland as a part of the Kingdom of Denmark. And things like Patuxent Space Base, which is the only remaining U.S. military base on Greenland. The U.S. previously had a lot more, and we decided to reduce it to one base. Things like that could be integrated into Golden Dome, which is going to be taking some existing capabilities and integrating them into this larger framework. So I would say that this is really, we have what we need. And so, if we want to tweak some of these agreements, I think that's probably the best course of action. But we certainly do not need to acquire Greenland in order to have national security. And in fact, that would cause immense security challenges to the United States because it would mean the destruction of the NATO alliance, which is a key enabler of U.S. strategic advantage.
Yes, but also, we're not talking about national security, but also well known is the rich natural resources of Greenland, as well as the opportunity for our Northern Passage trade route as we continue to look for other trade options. We know that U.S. officials have been discussing options to take control of Greenland. Last week there was talk of perhaps buying Greenland. What actually is on the table this morning or today? Because we use the word negotiation. Is it a negotiation when both parties are going in saying, I want you, and the other one saying, we're not budging?
Yeah, I mean, the Greenlanders have been very clear that they are not for sale. They're open for business, but not for sale. They want their sovereignty to be recognized, their right to self-determination, and from that basis to discuss opportunities for cooperation. Greenland, and the United States already have a joint committee to discuss economic development. There are ways that we can build off of the already existing agreements. But, Greenland had previously entered the Mineral Security Partnership. U.S. companies haven't seen really the business case to be investing in some of the deposits. And I would give, the example of a northocite mine where they were giving a 30-year lease last year, and there wasn't even an American company that bid on it. So it went to a Danish and French consortium.
Let me ask you the question I've heard a couple of times in the last week or so, and that is it possible, when you're looking at NATO and the threats to NATO if the U.S. goes in military or otherwise over Greenland? 32 countries sign on to NATO. There are 56,000 people that live in Greenland. Is there a possibility that there is an agreement that Greenland then comes under U.S. control to avoid the taking apart of NATO? If an agreement comes to hand over Greenland to the U.S. in agreement on all sides, that keeps NATO in place.
So that would be really up to the Greenlanders, right? They are a part of the Kingdom of Denmark. They're working towards independence, but they are a sovereign country. And so it has to be based off of what the people of Greenland want. And they have indicated that there is no interest in becoming part of the United States, and respect for sovereignty has to be at the very foundation of any type of credible alliance structure. The respect for sovereignty is at the very foundation of that. And if that's compromised, then there's not really much strength to the alliance.
Well, and as you're aware, Marisol, there's also this underlying frustration among Greenlanders over independence. And that has been a contention point between Denmark and Greenland. If the U.S. is somehow able to get in and press on that point, is there then a possibility that we see some kind of an agreement being made?
So I think, a year ago when the Trump administration was deciding how to approach Greenland with their interest, they could have taken a charm offensive and, really tried to, build a good relationship even greater way. But they didn't take that approach. President Trump came out immediately saying, well, I'm going to, buy Greenland, and really approaching the relationship in a way that has built a lot of ill will against the United States. So I would say that the actual approach has been very counterproductive to actually securing the interests that the U.S. states to have. So, in terms of today, the U.S. is not, entering into this in a good position in terms of the Greenlanders being at all interested. And I think, just seeing the really strong statements of the Greenlanders and the Danes yesterday and in the, preceding weeks has really shown that there are ways in which, yes, Greenland is seeking independence, but that, like they said yesterday, at this point, if they have to choose, they're going with Denmark, and they're more culturally similar. So, that is understandable and makes sense. And the United States hasn't really postured itself in a good way to even fill that role, because they're not going to trust us if we're threatening to invade them. When Hitler invaded Denmark, he did so on the pretext of protecting them, right? So this is kind of hitting some historical notes in a kind of uncomfortable way.
It's an interesting context that we take into these conversations today. Marisol Maddox, thanks for your time.
Thank you for having me.
If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.